You mentioned that you only turned 20, so obviously you have a long way to go. But if by some chance the 12-year-old version of you could realize
Compared to 3 years ago, there's definitely a lot more people expecting me to win. But, you know, I think 15-year-old me would be proud that I'm still playing on center court.
Globally, do you have a sense of, sorry, I'm not trying to give you an ego here, but like if you look at the numbers on YouTube for like the pre-tournament press conferences, how much people watch some? Yours is at like 107.
The ultimate class act. Coco Gauff silences the Dubai crowd, then does the unthinkable after crushing Alex Eala. Welcome back to Court Vision Plus, your absolute #1 destination for the hottest tennis drama, the most jaw-dropping upsets, the most heartwarming moments, and the kind of unfiltered, no-holds-barred coverage that you simply cannot find anywhere else on the internet. If you are new here, first of all, welcome to the family, and second of all, you picked the perfect video to stumble upon, because what we are about to break down today is genuinely one of the most talked about, most emotionally charged, and most unexpectedly beautiful moments of the entire 2026 tennis season so far. And we are only in February, people. We are only in February, and already the sport has delivered a moment that is going to be remembered for years to come. We are heading to Dubai. The Dubai Tennis Championships. A WTA 1000 event that always brings the absolute cream of the crop when it comes to women's professional tennis, held in one of the most glamorous cities on the planet, under the lights, with the stakes as high as they come. Now, if you think you know what kind of story this is going to be, let me stop you right there, because this is not just a tennis story. This is a story about culture, about passion, about the global growth of a sport that for too long has been seen as a game for the privileged few. This is a story about a superstar who had every reason to be annoyed, every reason to be dismissive, every reason to simply take the victory and walk away, and instead chose to do something so completely unexpected, so genuinely warm and generous, that even the people who were cheering against her were left with their mouths hanging open. This is the story of Coco Gauff, Alex Eala, and the moment that stopped the tennis world in its tracks. Let us start at the very beginning, because context is everything, and the road to this extraordinary quarterfinal matchup was anything but smooth. Let us talk about Coco Gauff first. 21 years old. World number 4. Two-time Grand Slam champion. One of the most recognizable athletes on the planet, not just in tennis, not just in sports, but in popular culture as a whole. Coco Gauff is the kind of athlete who sells out arenas, who trends on social media without even trying, who carries the weight of an entire generation of tennis fans on her shoulders with a grace and composure that honestly defies her age. But heading into this Dubai quarterfinal on a Thursday afternoon, even Coco was carrying some serious battle scars. Cast your mind back just one round earlier. Wednesday. Round 3. Coco Gauff versus Elise Mertens, a player who has been around the block more times than most and who absolutely knows how to make life miserable for the top seeds. And miserable is exactly the word, because Coco Gauff, the dominant, powerful, ice-cold Coco Gauff that we all know and love, was pushed to the absolute outer limits of her resilience in that match. We are not talking about a close match. We are not talking about a tight second set or a nervous tiebreak. We are talking about Coco Gauff staring down 3 match points. 3 separate occasions where one more point for Mertens would have sent Gauff packing, sent her home, ended her Dubai campaign before the semifinals even came into view. 3 times, the tennis gods put the elimination notice right in front of her face, and 3 times, Coco Gauff tore it up, crumpled it, and threw it right back. She survived. She clawed her way through a match that by every logical measure she should have lost, and she did it through sheer, indomitable willpower. So now you understand the atmosphere heading into Thursday. The question buzzing around the tournament, buzzing around tennis social media, buzzing around every sports talk show that covers the WTA, was a simple one. Has Coco Gauff left everything on the court against Mertens? Is she running on fumes? Can she possibly summon that same level of intensity 2 days in a row? Because waiting on the other side of the net was not going to be a soft touch. Waiting on the other side of the net was someone who had been turning Dubai upside down for the better part of a week. Alex Eala. 20 years old. World number 47. Filipina sensation. And in the context of this tournament, in the context of this city, in the context of this particular crowd, a player who was operating on a level of support and love and pure emotional fuel that is almost impossible to quantify. Let us talk about who Alex Eala is for those who perhaps have not been following her rise as closely as they should, because trust me, this is a story you want to know. Eala is a product of the Rafa Nadal Academy, trained under the watchful eye of one of the greatest players in the history of the sport, and the results of that world-class development program are becoming clearer and more spectacular with every tournament she enters. She possesses a forehand that generates terrifying pace, court coverage that belies her relatively slight frame, and a competitive instinct that simply refuses to accept defeat until the final point is played. But here is the thing about Alex Eala that makes her story so uniquely compelling in the year 2026. She is not just a tennis player. She is a symbol. She is a movement. The Philippines is a nation of over 110 million people, a country with an incredibly passionate sports culture, and for decades, Filipino tennis fans had been watching from the sidelines as players from other nations dominated the global stage. And then along came Alex Eala, a young woman with the talent, the work ethic, and the competitive fire to actually compete at the very highest levels of professional tennis. And suddenly those Filipino fans had someone to believe in. Someone to cheer for. Someone to make noise for. And make noise they did. Dubai is a city with a famously large and vibrant Filipino expatriate community, tens of thousands of Filipinos who have built their lives in the UAE, who work incredibly hard, who are fiercely proud of their heritage, and who are not about to miss this opportunity to show up in force for one of their own. Throughout her first 3 matches in Dubai, where Eala dispatched Hailey Baptiste, dismantled the highly regarded Jasmine Paolini in a match that genuinely shocked the tennis establishment, and then overcame the veteran Serena Sirsti, the atmosphere inside the stadium was unlike anything the Dubai Tennis Championships had ever seen before. We are talking about chanting. We are talking about flags. We are talking about the kind of coordinated, passionate, joyful noise that you typically associate with football stadiums or boxing arenas, not tennis courts. The crowd was not just cheering, they were performing. And Alex Eala, feeding off every single decibel of that energy, was playing the tennis of her life. So when the quarterfinal draw put Gauff and Eala on a collision course, the tennis world collectively leaned forward and paid attention. On paper, this was a mismatch. Coco Gauff, a multiple Grand Slam champion ranked inside the top 5 in the world, against a player ranked outside the top 40. The odds were not kind to Eala, and any objective analyst looking at the head-to-head numbers, the ranking differential, and the respective level of experience would tell you that Gauff should win this match comfortably. But tennis is not played on paper. Tennis is played on a court, in front of people, with emotions running at full capacity, and on this particular day, in this particular stadium, logic was going to have a very hard time asserting itself. The crowd was enormous. The energy was palpable from the moment the 2 players walked out onto the court. On one side, Alex Eala, greeted by a wall of noise that was part celebration, part prayer, part pure collective willpower. On the other side, Coco Gauff, walking into what was unmistakably enemy territory, greeted by polite applause from the minority of the crowd that was there to support her, and an almost electric undercurrent of anticipation from everyone else. You could feel it. The tension. The possibility. The sense that something extraordinary was about to unfold. And then the match began. And Coco Gauff proceeded to absolutely, comprehensively, and with almost surgical precision, dismantle everything the crowd was hoping for. What happened in that first set was the kind of performance that reminds you why Gauff is considered one of the elite players on the planet. She was not just good. She was dominant in a way that left very little room for argument or debate. Her serve was landing with vicious accuracy, her ground strokes were penetrating deep into the corners, and her movement was fluid and purposeful, cutting off Eala's angles before she could even think about exploiting them. Eala fought, as she always does, but the gap in this first set was simply too wide. Coco Gauff took it 6-love. A bagel. A shutout. And she did not just win the first set, she won the first 10 games of the match consecutively, an incredible streak that perfectly illustrated the gulf in performance levels during those opening stages. Now, here's where Alex Eala showed you exactly why she is the player she is, exactly why her ranking has been rising, and exactly why the tennis world should be watching very carefully over the next few years. Down a set in several games, playing in front of a crowd that desperately wanted to believe but was starting to feel the cold reality of the scoreboard, Eala dug down deep and found something. She started generating more pace on her ground strokes. She started taking the ball earlier, giving Gauff less time to set up. And on those occasions when Gauff's first serve deserted her, which admittedly was not often, Eala pounced on the second delivery with the hunger and aggression of a player who absolutely refuses to accept that the match is over. The crowd, sensing this shift, erupted. The volume inside that stadium went up several notches. Chants broke out. Flags were waved. Every point that Eala won was greeted with the kind of roar that you would expect at a decisive set tiebreak, not a moment in the second set of a match where the scoreline was already looking grim. And for a few glorious moments, you allowed yourself to believe. You let the narrative take hold. The underdog. The home crowd. The passionate fans. Was this going to be the night where the script got flipped? No. No, it was not. Because Coco Gauff, for all the emotion and noise and drama swirling around her, is a cold-blooded competitor at her absolute core. When the match required steadiness, she was steady. When the match required aggression, she was aggressive. She absorbed Eala's late push, weathered the crowd's intensity, and closed out the match with the kind of clinical efficiency that champions are defined by. 6-love, 6-2. It was a highly comprehensive, completely dominant victory. Coco Gauff was through to the Dubai semifinals for the first time since 2023, and she had done it without ever truly looking like she was in danger of losing. And then came the moment that the entire tennis world has been talking about ever since. The on-court interview. The moment when a player walks up to the microphone, still breathing hard from the match, possibly still processing the adrenaline, and has to find something intelligent and gracious to say in front of thousands of people who were, for the most part, actively cheering against them just minutes ago. For most players, this is an awkward formality. A few platitudes about working hard and taking it one match at a time, a quick thanks to the crowd, and off to the locker room. That is the formula. That is the expected script. Coco Gauff threw that script in the bin and set it on fire. She started by acknowledging her own performance with the kind of honest self-assessment that you rarely hear from athletes in the immediate aftermath of a victory. She mentioned that her serve was not at its absolute best, that there were moments where she could have been cleaner, and that she was aware of the areas she needed to sharpen up heading into the semifinals. It was humble without being falsely modest. It was the assessment of a player who has extremely high standards for herself and is not willing to coast on the back of a comfortable win. But then, and this is the part that made the moment genuinely special, she turned her attention to Alex Eala. Alex is a tough competitor, and even when I was up, I knew that she could come back at any given moment. I have seen her do it before. Those words, spoken with genuine warmth and respect, landed beautifully. Because they were not just polite pleasantries. They were truth. Coco Gauff had watched Alex Eala's matches in this tournament. She knew what Eala was capable of. She understood that a 6-love first set does not mean the match is over against a player with Eala's fighting spirit, and she wanted the crowd, and more importantly Eala herself, to know that she had never once taken her opponent lightly. And then Coco Gauff looked out at that sea of faces, that enormous, passionate crowd that had spent the entire match willing her to lose, that had chanted and cheered and roared for every point her opponent won, and she said something that stopped everyone cold. Thank you guys for coming out here. I know you were mostly supporting Alex, but I have to say it is great to be on a crowded court. There was a beat of surprise. And then the crowd, those same fans who had been hoping to see Gauff's defeat, started to applaud. Because what do you do when someone disarms you completely with genuine warmth? You respond in kind. You cannot help it. She went on. She talked about how she has been playing the Dubai tournament for many years now, and how to see the stadium absolutely packed, to walk out onto a court that is buzzing with that kind of energy and passion, means the world to her as a competitor and as someone who loves the sport of tennis deeply. She was not performing. She was not reading from a corporate PR script. She was speaking from the heart, and every single person in that stadium could feel the difference. And then came the line. The one that is going to be quoted and replayed and referenced for a very long time. Coco Gauff specifically, deliberately, and with obvious sincerity, thanked Alex Eala for bringing a completely new demographic to tennis. She thanked the Filipino fans for their passion, for their presence, for their energy. She said, "I think it is great for the sport, so keep being enthusiastic, and keep rooting for your player. Keep rooting for your player. Not your ex-player. Not the player who just lost. Your player." Because in Coco Gauff's view, the story of Alex Eala is not over. The journey of Filipino tennis is not over. The passion of those fans should not be extinguished by a single result, no matter how decisive. Let us sit with that for a moment and truly appreciate what Coco Gauff was doing there, because it is easy to nod along and say, "Oh, what a nice thing to say," and then move on. But the deeper significance of that statement is enormous. Tennis has a history. Tennis has a culture. And if we are being completely direct with each other here on Court Vision Plus, that history and that culture has not always been the most welcoming or the most inclusive when it comes to fans from non-traditional tennis nations. The sport has long been associated with exclusivity, with expensive equipment and private club memberships and a certain kind of social class that has historically locked out far more people than it has invited in. The image of tennis as a sport for the privileged is something the sport has been trying to shake for decades, with mixed results. And then you have Alex Eala's Filipino fanbase turning a Dubai stadium into something that looks and sounds more like a championship boxing match in Manila. And rather than looking at that scene with discomfort or treating it as a problem to be managed, Coco Gauff looked at it and saw the future of tennis. She saw thousands of people who have fallen in love with this sport because one of their own is out there competing at the highest level. She saw new fans. She saw the kind of organic, genuine, culturally rich engagement that no marketing campaign can buy and no brand partnership can manufacture. And she stood at that microphone and told them they were welcome. Told them they were good for tennis. Told them to keep coming. That is wisdom. That is leadership. That is why Coco Gauff, even at 21 years old, is already being discussed in the same breath as the all-time greats, not just in terms of her on-court achievements, but in terms of her impact on the sport and its culture. Now, as magnificent as the Gauff-Eala storyline is, and it truly is magnificent, the Dubai Tennis Championships had plenty more drama to serve up in the quarterfinals, because as it turns out, Coco Gauff was not the only American making waves in the desert this week. In fact, the American women were absolutely taking Dubai by storm, with 3 stars all advancing to the semifinals in a display of collective excellence that sent a very clear message to the rest of the WTA Tour. Let us talk about Jessica Pegula, the 4th seed. A player who has built her reputation on an almost robotically consistent baseline game, a tenacious competitive spirit, and the ability to stay calm and execute even when the match is slipping away from her. Pegula's quarterfinal against Clara Tauson was an absolute dogfight from the first point to the last. Now, Tauson is not just any opponent. Tauson was the runner-up at this very tournament in 2025. She knows these courts. She knows how to win matches at this level, and she came into this quarterfinal with absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. Pegula took the first set 6-3, looking comfortable and in control, and for a moment you thought it might be relatively straightforward. And then Tauson rediscovered her best tennis and absolutely blitzed Pegula in the second set, taking it 6-2, and suddenly we had a match on our hands. A real, genuine, high-stakes, who is going to blink first tennis match. Now before we let you go, here's a thought to carry with you until the next video. In a sport that is growing faster than ever before, in a world where new fans are discovering tennis every single day, moments like the one we witnessed in Dubai matter enormously. Every time a player shows genuine class, genuine generosity of spirit, genuine love for the game and the people who play it and watch it, the sport gets a little bigger. The tent gets a little wider. And when a player of Coco Gauff's stature takes that microphone and says to an entire community of passionate fans, keep being enthusiastic, keep rooting for your player, she is not just being polite. She is doing the work of growing the sport in a way that no marketing budget ever could. Coco Gauff is not just a champion. She is one of the best ambassadors this sport has ever had. And on this night in Dubai, she reminded the entire tennis world of exactly why that is. That is all for today here on Court Vision Plus. If this video fired you up, if it moved you, if it made you appreciate what Coco Gauff did at that microphone or what Alex Eala has been building throughout this tournament, then please do us a favor and smash that like button right now. It takes 2 seconds and it makes a massive difference to how this content reaches other tennis fans around the world. And speaking of which, we want to hear from you in the comments. Who are you picking to win the Dubai Tennis Championships? Is it Coco Gauff making a triumphant run to the final? Is it Amanda Anisimova announcing herself as a legitimate title contender on the biggest stage? Or is Jessica Pegula finally going to get her hands on a WTA 1000 trophy? Drop your predictions below, because we read every single comment and we love hearing what this community thinks. And if you have not yet subscribed to Court Vision Plus, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and become part of a community that lives and breathes every serve, every volley, every match point, and every extraordinary post-match interview in the world of professional tennis. We are here for every moment, the dramatic ones, the beautiful ones, and especially the ones like today that remind you exactly why you fell in love with this sport in the first place. This is Court Vision Plus. We will see you in the next one.
Compared to 3 years ago, there's definitely a lot more people expecting me to win. But, you know, I think 15-year-old me would be proud that I'm still playing on center court.
Globally, do you have a sense of, sorry, I'm not trying to give you an ego here, but like if you look at the numbers on YouTube for like the pre-tournament press conferences, how much people watch some? Yours is at like